Joining us from Kyiv is Peter Zalmayev. He's the director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative. Peter, thank you for joining France 24. Wartime protests have been rare in Ukraine. The fact that these have been going on for weeks outside the presidential palace in other cities beyond the capital. How does Zelensky put an end to this crisis?
Well, I think he's already made the first step by replacing Mr. Sivsky with Mr. Drapati. It's our third now commander-in-chief, third main general during this war, highly respected. So that was not a controversial decision. However, we see that these protests have been going on now have entered their second week. It looks like at least the young people of Ukraine and the residents of the capital are simply fed up with business as usual. Of course, after all the corruptions in France 24, among other TV channels, have been covering quite actively over the last year, 2 years. Ukrainians understand that every new allegation, every new revelation diminishes faith in our political leadership and on the part of our Western allies. So I think that Zelensky will have to make some kind of a decision, but the trick is not to lose face while doing it. Simply reinstating Fedorov will, of course, make Zelensky look weak, and so now they're casting about for potential alternatives for Mr. Fedorov. Fedorov also realizes that his political weight has increased tremendously. He's now considered Zelensky's number one opponent if he decides to run in the new elections, if there are new elections, because both parties also have to realize until they come to some kind of an amicable solution, stop playing games, Ukraine may not have presidential elections. I mean, what's at stake is Ukrainians' survival. So the last thing these people should be thinking about is elections. That's like putting a horse before a cart before a horse.
Yeah, do we have any idea what Fedorov's ambitions are, though?
He's of course being coy about this, and I mean, that's simply part for the course for any aspiring politician. Just like the predecessor of Mr. Drapati, Mr. Zaluzhny, our first military commander, who before Fedorov's crisis was the preeminent potential competitor or a rival to Mr. Zelensky. Fedorov, I think, is hedging his bets. I think he understands that to make any sort of a statement to that effect would not be appropriate, simply because the war is not over yet. And so I think he's being smart, and that is precisely what has allowed him to gain so much popularity so quickly.
Yeah, and is this having any effect on the battlefield? I mean, does this crisis hurt Ukraine's ability to mobilize manpower?
Well, and that's actually part of the problem that I think Zelensky has laid at the feet of Fedorov. Fedorov is not an angel. He's in his term as Minister of Defense has not been able to deal with the main issue, apart from his success with the drone technology and its implementation. The main sticking point remains recruitment of soldiers, the way that the government has approached it. Some think that Zelensky, in fact, wanted to demote Fedorov precisely to blame him for this continuing festering wound. And so it is expected that his successor, whoever that may be, will have to deal with this issue. The matter of fact remains that no matter the technology in drones that Ukraine has been able to utilize to such great effect, Russia remains the overwhelming power on the battlefield, outmatching Ukraine by several counts, and that is a huge problem. Whatever we're seeing, the deep strikes on the territory of Russia, etc., does not cancel out the remaining disparity on the battlefield. The Russians are continuing to occupy more of Ukraine's territory, albeit at a much slower pace, but this disparity remains and it has to be addressed.
We're several months away from another hard wartime winter. We're 7 months away from the 5-year anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion. Um, So a lot of frustration, anger about this grinding war. Do you think protests like this could occur more often in the future?
Well, it is, yes, and they are. In fact, the simple fact is that Mr. Zelensky is has now entered into his in fact, is into his second term of president without having been elected to it. And don't forget that when he was elected, he said, "I'll be a one-term president." That was his sort of resolution. Well, that's kind of that's recent history now, and I think the only way for you that Ukrainians feel they can try to influence politics in this country is through these actions on the street, simply because they don't have the power to elect or re-elect their president. So that is simply a fact of life in Ukraine. And once again, whatever you see on TV, and Ukraine has reached tremendous results with this ability to strike deep inside Russia, that has not translated into a much an easier life for residents of Ukraine's big cities, including Kyiv, Odessa, Kharkiv. The number and the simple, just the intensity of barrages that these people face from Russia have increased. Their lives have become more miserable as a result, and everyone is expecting the worst winter in Ukraine's post-Soviet history that's coming up. Everyone knows that. People are tired, but once again, the calculus for Ukraine remains pretty stark. If Ukraine stops fighting, it will cease to exist. If Russia stops this war, the war will end.
Yeah, and you bring up Russia there. I want to ask you about Vladimir Putin. We have this division in the upper ranks of Ukraine's military. We have this government reshuffle as a result, and then the protests as a result of this. How do you think Vladimir Putin might try to exploit all of this division?
Putin has been exploiting it all along, of course. The Russians are, in fact, fanning the flames. They're doing their best to increase the gulf between the military and the political branches of Ukraine's government, so to speak. Not for lack of trying, but I think what really keeps Ukraine going and being able to resist so valiantly, so ably, is the understanding, once again, that politics should take a second role to military matters, and that's why these cardboard Maidans that we've been referring to, they have not posited any demands of Zelensky's ouster. No matter how his popularity may slide or seesaw, it comes and goes, of course, and it's not where it was, of course, in 2022. No sane Ukrainians are demanding Zelensky's ouster. It's simple as that. And that's, I think, where Russia and Putin have made their biggest miscalculation. They thought that that would lead to it. It hasn't, and that's why Putin and his gang remain very frustrated with this sort of momentum. They expected something else, but Ukrainians understand that the stakes are so high, and nothing less than Ukraine's survival as a sovereign state.
Peter, thank you so much. Peter Zalmayev from the
Thank
Eurasia
you.
Democracy Initiative.